that can't make it. So yeah, we're just gonna kind of go run through our levels. Let me just share my screen with you guys real quick. So yeah, let's go through our key levels. Let's kind of see our weekly outlook, what the markets are looking like, what MQ is looking like specifically. So I'm going to start out just looking at the weekly time frame here. MNQ on the right, MES on the left. So actually, I need to pull up MES over here. And I'm just pulling up the actual MNQ one chart, MES one chart, just because if we pull up the specific chart, then again, we're missing a lot of data over here. So just looking at those charts right now. But weekly time frame, very first thing we want to do, like usual, is chart out our previous week high and previous week low. So that's going to be the very first thing I do here. Obviously, we had a short week last week, and we had more consolidation, which does make sense because we had two really expansion weeks before that. We had that big expansion week down, and then we had that big expansion week back up, or we had that huge move down and then that huge move up. So it does make sense, a short week, nothing crazy in terms of news that, we move sideways. The good thing is we understood that. We only traded 2 of the 4 days, and we made bank on those 2 days. So, again, when you have that understanding going into a week, it really helps you have a better plan once Monday comes around. Whereas if you have no idea what the market is doing, you don't understand it's a short week. You don't understand we don't have a lot of major data coming out. You don't understand that we had expansion the previous weeks before. Then you're probably going to be trying to force a lot of breakout trades when we understood that we probably weren't going to see a lot of breakouts last week, right? So when we did have good moves, we capitalized on them. But when we saw that the market was moving sideways, we didn't touch it. So here, I'm charting out previous week low on MES over there, previous week high. So yeah, pretty small range weekly compared to what we've seen recently. Just from the wick to wick, we're looking at, again, still decent, 4,500 ticks. But compared to what we've been seeing, a 11,800 tick range, not as bad. So obviously the first thing we want to do, chart out that previous week, high, previous week low. And then we want to come to the conclusion of where do we think price is going to go? Do we think we're going to take out previous, I put previous day high. Do we think we're going to take out previous week high? Do we think we're going to take out previous week low? Well, my assumption going into this week would be previous week low, right? Even after even after we had that recovery throughout the week, 2 weeks ago, I still think that the sentiment across the board is pretty bearish. I don't think people have too much confidence in this market, even though the tariffs got delayed. Even though we had that big week, I still think the overall market sentiment is pretty bearish. We also do, before we jump into more charts, we do have Tesla earnings coming out on Tuesday. So Tesla has they've been getting hit, right? I think they're down, 30% this year, something crazy, right? So if they report pretty bad earnings, which I'm going to assume that they're going to report pretty bad earnings on this first quarter, we might see that end up affecting the NASDAQ. We might see a hit on the NASDAQ. So kind of going into Tuesday, I would expect some kind of negative effect in the market from those earnings. Those earnings are going to be once the market closes, right? But if we just kind of look at our other news throughout the week, well, tomorrow's probably going to move sideways. We're probably not going to see too much expansion. We only have yellow folder. Tuesday, again, we don't have any major news except for those Tesla earnings post-market. So Monday, Tuesday might be more range days again. We might see a lot more consolidation going into this week. Wednesday is when we get a little bit more news. We have, flash services PMI, flash manufacturing, some red folder. Okay, that's decent. Thursday, we have unemployment claims. That's going to give us something. And then Friday, we'll see some good movement because of consumer sentiment out of University of Michigan. But overall, this week is looking like a possible range week again, right? It's almost looking like we're going to move sideways again. Now, it really does depend on how those Tesla earnings come out. I would assume if Tesla gets hit, like I'm guessing, we're going to see a decent dump. And again, if Trump comes out and says anything throughout the week, we could see the market go in any direction. It's kind of a dangerous time to try to predict too much in this market, because at the end of the day, we have our key levels, we have our technical analysis levels, but at any point, at any day, you guys know Trump could say one thing on Twitter and the market can completely shift So we don't want to get caught up in trying to predict this market too much. We never really do in general. We just really want to focus on being reactionary and seeing where this market wants to go, and also being very conservative when we see price might move more sideways again, okay? But if I was going to assume, I would say that ultimately our sentiment is still bearish, so I'd want to see previous week low get taken out, which we gaps kind of down to start the day, so I wouldn't be surprised if we do that. Okay, so we have those levels charted out. Let's go down to the daily time frame. And this is where we want to chart out our previous day high, previous day low, which obviously pretty small daily candle there on Friday, or on Thursday. We didn't see too much movement, but we still want to have those levels charted out. So we're going to chart out that previous day high at 18,652. Boom, right there. Hey, happy Easter, Sea Breezy. Nothing much, man. Just getting back at it. Getting back in the charts. How you doing? So we had previous day low down here. We already just swept it on this gap down. So we've already taken out previous day low. We can still chart that level out just to look at it. But we have the same thing over here on ES. Right, previous day high up here at 537375. And then we just took out that previous day low on that gap down. So previous day low has already been taken, which could mean one of two things, right? That could mean it's just a quick liquidity sweep to come back up for previous day high to trade into this bearish fair value gap up here. Or it could tell us that we're going to see a strong continuation down. Now, whenever I see a daily fair value gap like this resting above going into the week, typically what we're going to see is a move up for that fair value gap. We're going to see something like this. On Monday, we're going to see a move up. And then maybe Tuesday, we're going to see another move up like this. And then Wednesday is when we're going to see that move down where we go for, for some more sell side levels. That's our weekly profile. I would kind of expect going into the week. But again, with a more possible consolidation week without any major news, it's still hard to say if we're going to do that. But whenever I see a daily fair value gap form going into a new week, I typically assume that price wants to trade back for that level. Most of the time, we do see price trade back for that level on either Monday or Tuesday before we sell off on Wednesday. So I'm going to be looking at that as a key level. If we see pretty bullish price action going into the morning tomorrow, going into market open, pretty bullish structure, then that's when we're going to look to take longs up to that previous day high. Just depends on how market structure is in the morning, but typically that's something that I see a lot in this market. Whenever we have a daily or a weekly fair value gap above and we have a bearish market, we typically want to retrace, rebalance, and then get that sell-off, right? So keep that level in mind. Looking at the 4 hour, we're going to move on. We want to have this low chart out on the 4 hour as well. This is a very key swing low over here. So we're going to chart out this level. Boom, 17,918.25. So that's going to be an external low that we want to see price go for eventually. And then obviously we have our lows all the way down here. I don't expect us to get to those lows this week whatsoever, but we still want to have them charted out just in case. Honestly, I'd be looking for, like I said, a move up, take that 4 hour swing high into the previous day fair value gap, and then see a sell off down to, down to this low, and then down to that low all the way over here. Previous week low, and then that external low down at 7918.25. Kind of what we're looking like here in terms of structure. Obviously, we have a gap down, so we might see a little bit of a continuation of this move down during our Asia session. London session, I'd want to see a little bit of a reversal back up to that previous day fair value gap, all the way up here. So that's kind of what I'm seeing on the 4 hour. Obviously, our structure hasn't been amazing on the 4 hour with a more sideways week. We haven't been generating the best fair value gaps. We generated this 4 hour gap. We shorted off that. But then when we generated this 4 hour gap, we ran right through it and then still sold off. So not giving us the best, but what I do like is this 4 hour SIBI right here. I love that we wicked into that on Friday. I keep saying Friday, but on Thursday. And we got a really good reaction off that level. And then on Sunday open, we get a gap down. So we're showing a lot of strong, bearish selling pressure here. Like price wants to continue lower. So this is another key level we'll be looking at tonight and going into tomorrow morning. Is price kind of hovering around that 4 hour? Or do we end up selling off all night? Again, these are the things we kind of got to look for once we're getting close to market open when we wake up in the morning to kind of see where the market goes for the night. But just something to keep in mind. 4 hour imbalance there. Good delivery from that 4 hour imbalance. So if we get continuation, let's say we get a 4 hour close below this previous week low tonight, then that's when I would really expect us to continue bearish tomorrow. Let's say we fail to sweep that low. Maybe we do sweep it and then we come back up. We get SMT. Okay, now I'm expecting longs back up to that previous day high, to that daily fair value gap, okay? So that's kind of what I'm looking at the 4 hour. If we just look at the bigger picture, obviously we are more bearish than anything, right? We look bearish. We've had this pullback. We've rebalanced this range here. But ultimately, we still look pretty bearish across the board. In our market sentiment, consumer sentiment, everything has been bearish. I think the Michigan consumer sentiment has been really negative for like the past 4 months. So again, that data comes out on Friday. I would expect that to be pretty negative again. So just kind of showing us that price wants to keep moving lower, but I'd like to see it move higher first, sweep liquidity before we make that move. Let's go down to the hourly time frame, see if we have any key levels on the hourly. We can obviously delete that previous day low, just because we've already taken it out. Don't really need to have that chart out right now. So just looking at the hourly, again, structure looks really, really, really like we want to come down and take out previous day low. So I would expect that to happen right now. Our previous week low looks like we really want to come down for that. We formed an hourly imbalance right along with that 4 hour. We see strong delivery down from that level. Then obviously we have our new week opening gap here. Big new week opening gap. We're already seeing price delivering. So we always want to be looking at our previous swing lows and highs, right? When we see price come down to this low, are we going to get a close below on the hourly, the 4 hour, or are we going to sweep it and come back up? If we get a close below, that's when we're expecting continuation down to previous week low. If we get a sweep and a strong delivery back up, that's when we're looking for price to come back up to that 4 hour for that buy side. But again, ultimately, everything looks pretty bearish right now, especially with that huge gap down right there at open. That gap down is almost 500 ticks right there. So looking pretty bearish. But yeah, what I'm reading on the higher time frame is that we're delivering from a 4 hour fair value gap, a 1 hour fair value gap. We're getting strong bearish order flow. We're disrespecting a lot of our bullish levels over here. So everything on the charts right now reads bearish for the time being. Just kind of at least looking at tonight. Obviously, we want to see if this new week opening gap wants to get filled. A lot of the time when we form this new week opening gap, we come back and fill it throughout the week at some point. So I'd kind of like to see that happen tomorrow and Tuesday, see us fill that gap. And then once we trade into that previous day high and take that, or trade into the fair value gap up here, once Tesla earnings come out, if they come out negative, then that's when I'm expecting Wednesday to absolutely just dump. And Wednesday could be a pretty good expansion day for us to sell side. So right now I want us to build up a lot of sell side liquidity down here, like this previous week low, build up some higher time frame swing lows, make a bullish move going into tomorrow and Tuesday, take out some buy side liquidity, and then see price absolutely dump on Wednesday and see a continuation of that dump on Thursday. That's kind of what my weekly outlook is right now. That's what I'm expecting price to do. Now, of course, we have to be observant. We have to be aware of what Trump says, of what any of our FOMC members say, because we have some FOMC members speaking this week. Those are all going to be obviously, making a big impact on what happens on NQ this week. But ultimately, I'm still expecting more of a range, okay? So if any of you guys are just joining, we always want to look at our news that comes out throughout the week. Monday, Tuesday, no major news, no red folder news. That means we're probably going to be moving sideways. Wednesday, we have red folder, and it's after Tesla earnings. We're probably going to see some expansion. Thursday, we're probably going to see a continuation of that expansion because we have red folder news, and we're still seeing that effect of Wednesday. Friday could go either way. Depends on how our consumer sentiment data comes out. But I would expect Friday to be a pretty decent day of price action as well. Typically, when we have University of Michigan consumer sentiment, we see some pretty volatile market conditions. And that's another thing that we have to really pay attention to. What do our market conditions show us, right? Last week, for example, we had a lot of choppier market conditions. We were moving sideways. So I barely traded last week, okay? And the thing is, because of that, I saved myself some losses because I didn't want to force trades in bad conditions. Instead, we waited for good setups. We caught some really good trades. We made our money. Trade 2 days out of the week and we make more money than we need, right? So that's kind of what it's all about. I have that same mindset going into this week. If I come into tomorrow morning and the market is absolutely terrible, it's just straight chop, we're not making any entry models, we're not delivering out of any fair value gaps, then I will not take a trade. Same with Tuesday, right? Any day of the week, if we do not see delivery from a fair value gap on the higher time frame, liquidity sweeps and entry models, you guys know I'm not going to be taking a trade. But if we do see those things going into tomorrow, then I would absolutely love to, see a trade opportunity and capitalize on that. But yeah, that's my mindset going into this week. just more conservative like last week. Playing it smart, we're preserving our capital while taking money when we can, right? The market is only going to offer us at certain times. We're not always going to be offered great setups in the market, but throughout the day, we're going to see great setups, and that's when we want to take our piece of the pie. You don't want to steal from the market, because if you try to steal from the market, it's going to steal your money right from your pocket. But the market likes to give us these opportunities, so we like to take those opportunities and only take what the market gives us, right? If you try to be greedy and you try to take what the market is not offering you, that's typically when you're blowing accounts. That's typically when you're losing money. So if you can look at it from that lens as a trader, that there's not going to be an opportunity to trade 24 hours of the day. Sometimes we only have 30 minutes to an hour of a really good opportunity. We just have to capitalize on that 30 minutes to make our money and walk away. Okay, so that should be our focus going into the week. Studying market conditions, going through our morning checklist like I taught last week. If you guys haven't watched that video or either of those videos from last week that I put on YouTube, go watch those, download the PDFs under our free lessons tab so that you have that morning checklist going into the week. You know what you're looking for before we take any trades. And let's say we go into the morning and we just see a perfect 15-minute opening range breakout trade. Boom, we're going to jump into it, right? But if we go into the morning and it's not setting up good, we're not breaking out of our 15-minute orb, we're just kind of shopping around, then we'll just hang out, do some learning, and we'll watch the market and we'll walk away without risking any money. Okay, that should be our mindset every single day, but especially on weeks where we're not expecting too much expansion in the market, okay? But yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at. That's kind of the overlook for the week. Obviously, if you guys have any questions for me, please feel free, shoot them out. Any comments, anything you might want me to go over during this session. But yeah, kind of just a quick overview of my expectations. Again, I'll be trading light. I'll be keeping my position size very small this week. If there's opportunities for me to add into a heavier position, then obviously I will. But what we've been seeing recently is these 1-minute candles that end up just, hundreds of ticks on a 1-minute candle. We kind of have to scale down on our sizing because we have to have bigger stop losses. So I'm going to continue with that until our volatility dies down. If our volatility dies down and we go back to our typical NASDAQ markets where I can have 50, 60 tick stop losses, that's when I'm going to scale back into minis and be trading a lot heavier, right? But for right now, keeping my position size light, bigger stop losses, but also bigger reward, right? So, yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Do you guys have any questions for me today? Anything you would like me to go over you might be confused about? Obviously, I'll be hopping on for pre-market tomorrow, so we'll still be getting prepared for the day before the market opens. But I love to have a good idea on Sunday night before Monday morning, just so I really understand what the market looks like. I have a good grasp of our news that's coming out, all that good stuff. When am I going to sell my art? Oh, good question, dude. I should sell it to the Discord. Nah, dude, I'm really not a good artist. I think the only artistic ability I was given was with music. Definitely not with painting. Of course, Boyd. He is risen indeed. Happy Easter, brother. Happy Easter. Yeah, guys, I know everybody's got their Easter plans and everything, but I assume that some of you guys still wanted to hop on here and get some learning in. See what we got this week. But, yeah, I mean, that's it for me. Probably just chill out for the night. Went to church this morning. That was awesome, and now I'll probably throw on some Padres baseball, Sunday night baseball. Chill out, get my mind right for the week. Sundays are honestly one of my favorite days just because for me, it's a day to reset. It's a day to relax, to get my mind in the right place before the work week starts, before the trading week starts. It's important, guys. Take the time on Sundays or whenever you have that free time, Monday morning maybe, to really, really, really dial in your mindset, to dial in your strategy, so that once Monday rolls around, you're not scrambling, trying to figure out what trades to take, but you already know you're calm, you're composed, you know what you're looking for, you're going to be patient. If you can keep that mindset every single day, it's going to help you, right? I know a lot of traders won't talk about the psychological side of trading, but man, if you can master the psychological side of trading, then the technical becomes super easy, and that's when you become a profitable trader. You don't become profitable by just psychology and by just technical, but if you can combine the technical analysis with your psychology, that's when a master is created, man. I'm telling you. Fernando Vargas came to church for Good Friday. That's sick. Dang, bro. Did you get a picture? Did you talk to him? That's dope. That is dope. Bro, that's awesome. Dang, dude. That's sick. Good for you. That is amazing. God is good, man. God is good. Yes, sir, Tony. All right, man. You enjoy the time with your kids, bro. Enjoy that. Yeah, man. Well, that's what I got. I'll be on, obviously, at 6:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll hop on. We'll do our pre-market. I'm sure Shosky will probably be jumping on in the morning before me as well in the voice chat. So if you guys want to get some more insight from Shosky, hop on with him. And then I'll be on right after that, and we'll be looking to get after it, guys. Let's have another great week. Remember, the focus is not how much money can we make. The focus is on how many good trades can we take, right? If you focus on just taking good trades, the money will follow. It's a byproduct of your discipline, of your habits. If you're only focused on making a lot of money, you're probably not going to make a lot of money. So this week, let's focus on being disciplined, being prepared, and staying patient, but also focusing on the process and taking good trades compared to just trying to make money. I'm telling you guys, that is what changed everything for me when I started focusing on the process over the outcome. So that'll be my focus. That's always my focus every single week. Doesn't really matter to me how much money I make. As long as I'm taking the right trades and doing the right thing, I'm going to make the money, right? That's just, it's going to happen. So, yeah. You too, Tony. Have a great night, man. All right, guys. Well, if you don't have any more questions for me, I'm going to end it here. Quick little session. I'll post this on YouTube right after if you guys want to check it out. And, yeah. All right. God bless. You guys have a great rest of your Easter. And I will see you in the morning, bright and early. All right. Appreciate you guys. Peace out.